Hey, I'm Carrie. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the first time all around. Welcome. I'm Carrieblogger, a career freelancer on Fiverr.com, where I've been selling as a Fiverr Pro verified copywriter for about the past 7 years. And in today's Freelance Friday video, I'm kind of giving my take on what I think is kind of the key to success for being an entrepreneur or, solopreneur, freelancer, self-driven kind of person. Like, what does it take to be successful when you are truly the person in charge of your own success? How much of that are things that I'm actively trying to do, and how much of that just kind of feels innate with my own personality and how that lends itself to this kind of work. To some extent, there's a lot of luck involved. A lot of luck for basically everyone who kind of somehow makes it work and somehow gets to the top of whatever pillar you're trying to climb. But more than the luck of the initial boost that got me started, I think that there is just some pretty foundational things about my personality that makes freelancing a really good fit for me. And I think that there are a lot of reasons that it's been able to continue. I didn't go into this with the goal of ever doing this work, honestly, and I didn't ever think it was going to become this. So somehow, some way, I think it's just some personality stuff. Okay, we've done enough introducing. Let's get right into it. A lot of this is a balancing act. So I've written down some kind of notes for myself of what I think I want to chat about. And as I was writing this list, I realized that a lot of these feel very opposite. And it takes a lot of balance to be successful as, a self-driven, you're in charge of yourself kind of business model. And you kind of have to wear a lot of hats, which will explain a couple of these things. To be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be an independent worker and self-directed, because you are completely in charge of yourself. You absolutely cannot rely on other people to manage anything for you, literally anything. I am the only person who is accountable to myself. And I think related to that, you have to be incredibly driven with no excuses, because the only person you're going to tell excuses to is yourself, and that's not going to help you or anyone else in the long run. Being very committed with a strong work ethic, even for things that you don't necessarily like to do or don't want to do, but the ability to overcome that and get it done anyway, that drive is really what it takes to be successful when you are determining your own success. Structured and consistent organization is so important. And I used to be a little bit more OCD-ish than I am today. I think found more kind of systems that fit with my everyday life, and I don't have to be quite as rigid as I used to be. If you're not an organized person, I think you're really going to struggle with this. You just are. I mean, you have to be so organized. You have to be on top of everything. You always have to know where all of these pieces are at any given time, because there's a lot going on. And if you lose track of things, it's not going to be very comfortable for you. If not unsuccessful, I think it'll just be uncomfortable. I've also always just been really good at time management. I don't think I've ever pulled an all-nighter in my entire life. That's just not my kind of personality. I set priorities really firmly, and I schedule time appropriately. Sellable skills. Let me say this again. Having sellable skills. You absolutely have to have skills that people want, that you can market, and that you are actually, qualified to do. I'm going to say this on basically every single video I ever make, but if you even consider watching a video on YouTube or anywhere else, any bit of advice that says how to make money on Fiverr with no skills, just go ahead and click that X in the corner. Just don't do it, because there is no way to be successful long-term in this thing if you have no skills. I'm a big planner, which is funny that I often get myself into things without planning a bunch. The process of going from I think I'm going to do this to now I'm doing it and I'm going to do a really good job is 2 days max. I just think that there's something entrepreneurial about having an idea and jumping in. And you're not waiting for the perfect time, because there really is no perfect time really for anything in life. I mean, that's just a fortune cookie statement. That pairs with not overthinking, really. Like your willingness to jump in and try with your full effort and energy, not just jumping in unprepared and not following through. Okay, this is my next one. Also, long-term follow through. That's why so many people fail, both in terms of like freelancers that I've coached and consulted with, and also businesses that I am hired to help write with these startups. They might get through the dive in part of, my entrepreneurial skill set, but they don't actually stick with it, or they think it's too hard right away and they can't figure out how to change it to work better for them, or they lose interest, or they get sidetracked by something else. But the ability to adapt, be flexible, but also see it through. And I don't usually start anything with a time limit. That's not the way that I work. Like I said, I go from an idea, I'm doing it, to I'm doing it well, and it just goes until I decide I think I'm done. And how am I going to change it to turn into something else? Strong communication, so important, especially if you are like me, working with a lot of different clients. You're kind of putting on different hats to work with different kinds of people, different personalities, different places in the world. Being able to communicate with all of those different people and keep a very clear, focused sense of openness and like answering questions with clarity and friendliness, but professionalism and timeliness and responsiveness, but not being like overwhelming. It is such a balancing act, and it's still something that I work on today. So if you are an entrepreneur in the digital space, make sure that your communication skills digitally are incredibly strong. If you are trying to build an entrepreneurial thing in person, you need to have that charm. You need to have that like spark that makes people really connect and engage with you. And I personally don't have that in person. I'm an introvert, and I can pretend. Even in front of a camera, it's kind of hard to pretend, but online, that is my area and that's my niche, and that's why it works for me so well. Confidence, but not cocky, and also realistic. So this is like the balancing trifecta. I really do believe in myself. I believe in my self-worth. I have confidence in what I'm offering, and that I have a realistic enough view of my own skills and even just what I want out of my work life, that I can be my own advocate, and then I can make that claim for myself so that it turns out the way it should. I do struggle with insecurities in a lot of ways, just like everybody does, but luckily for me, I've always been very self-assured in my work. Somehow being able to do things and get things done, check things off lists, like make benchmark success progress, that has never been an insecurity for me. So confidence, but realistic. Okay, I don't know. I'm not sure how much of that is going to come off sounding like a brag, and I'm just going to have to edit all of this out. I'm not sure how much of this is actually helpful for you, but I want to reassure those of you who feel like you're on the right track. Like, that's why I feel like this really fits me personally. And if you are considering it, or you're trying it right now and it just doesn't feel like a right fit for you, there's nothing good or bad, I don't feel like, about being the entrepreneur, self-driven creator of your own life and destiny versus working a traditional job. I don't think that there's anything right or wrong about either of those things. If you don't feel like freelance lifestyle is like a good work fit for you, or you don't want to have to do all of this extra stuff, if you don't want to have to manage yourself all the time, if you don't want to have to be incredibly organized with no oversight and no one to catch mistakes for you, if you struggle with communicating and you want to rely on a team to help you do that, it's just important to find like the perfect work life setup that fits you and your personality and the way that you want to work and what you want out of your life. And so for me, I think that this fits incredibly well, and I'm so lucky that I found it and have kind of leaned into it. And it might not be for you. So that's kind of the hard truth. That's the honesty hour in here, is that I don't think it's for everyone. But if you are like me and a lot of these things ring true, then yeah, it might be. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Carrieblogger. Check back for another Freelance Friday video on Friday and One Take Tuesday coming up on Tuesday. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you are still watching at the end, you know it. You are my hero. Thank you so much. Let's get back to work.